everyone. I hope you all are doing really good. So in last class we were discussing about Income Tax Act, and now we are going to move forward in Income Tax Act. In last class I told you what is Income Tax Act. Income tax means tax which is imposed on your income. Income tax is a type of direct tax which is paid to the central government. Okay. Then I told you income tax is levied on the basis of slab rate. For companies, for firms, slab rate is not applicable. They have to pay income tax on the basis of fixed rate. Then I told you there are two types of slab rate. One is old slab rate and one is new slab rate. As per old slab rate, there were only as per old slab rate there were only three types of rates. That is 5%, 20% and 30%. 5% is applicable when your income is more than 2,50,000 but up to 5 lakh. It means up to if you are earning rupees up to 2,50,000, you have to pay tax zero. But if your income is more than 2,50,000 but up to 5 lakh, you have to pay tax at the rate 5%. If your income is more than 5 lakh but up to 15 lakh, if your income is more than 5 lakh but up to 10 lakh, up to 10 lakh, then your tax rate is 20%. If your income is more than 10 lakh, then your tax rate is 30%. This I have told you. Then I told you that income tax is a source of revenue from the government. Income tax is a source of revenue for the government because the tax that government collects, government utilizes that tax in the infrastructure, development of healthcare facilities, and development of hospitals, etc. So income tax is a source of revenue from the for the government. For individual HUF, AOP, BOI, you have to pay tax as per slab rates. For companies and for firms, the tax rate is predetermined and you have to pay tax on the basis of the fixed income tax rate. Old tax regime, there were three types of rates: 5%, 20%, 30%, which we have discussed just now. Now, in new tax regime, there are six type of rates. If your income is up to 2,50,000, then you do not have to pay any income tax. Your income tax rate is nil. If you are earning more than 2,50,000 but up to 5 lakh, then take rate of tax is 5%. If you are earning more than 5 lakh but up to 7.5 lakh, then tax rate is 10%. If you are earning more than 7.5 lakh but up to 10 lakh, then tax rate is how much? 15%. If you are earning more than 10 lakh but up to 2 lakh 50,000, tax rate is 20%. If you are earning more than 2 lakh 50,000 but up to 15 lakh, then tax rate is 20%. If you are earning more than 20 lakh but up to 2 lakh 50,000, tax rate is 25%. If you are earning more than 25 lakh, tax rate is 30%. So, sir, can we continue in old regime or we all have to give tax as per new regime? बच्चों, Income Tax Act has given option to the individual and HUF that whether they can continue in old regime or they can come under new regime. But in old regime, you can claim deductions and exemptions. But under new regime, you cannot claim deductions and exemptions because under new tax regime, rate of taxes are low. So it is up to you. Okay, so we have done a lot of illustrations on the basis of these. Now let us move ahead and see what the next topic is saying. So this was the revision which we have already discussed in the last class. Now let's move ahead. Exemptions to the tax slip. Exemptions to the tax slip. One must bear in mind that not all income can be taxed on slab basis. बच्चों, whether you are individual, HUF, AOP, or BOI, you should keep in your mind that not all income can be taxed on the basis of slab. It means there are some income which are taxed on some other basis, not on the basis of slab. Capital gain income is an exception to this rule. Capital gains are taxed depending on the asset you own and how long you have had it. Capital gains, if there is some capital gain, that capital gain is not taxed on the basis of slab. If there is capital gain are taxed on the basis of type of income that you have sold. Suppose I sold my house for 50 lakh, which I have purchased for 20 lakh. I earned a capital gain of 30 lakh. Now this 30 lakh will not be taxed as per slab rate. To tax the 30 lakh, there are some other rates given, and the 30 lakh profit will be taxed as per those rates. Holding period determine if an asset is long term or short term. If your asset is a long term asset, then the tax will be as per long term capital gain. If your asset holding period is short term, then the capital gain will be short term capital gain, and rate for long term capital gain and short term capital gain are different. The holding period to determine nature of asset also differs for different assets. A quick glance of holding period, nature of asset and rate of tax for each of them is given below. बच्चों, holding period for each asset is different. It is not like holding period for every asset is same. Holding period to determine nature of asset also differ from assets to assets. चलिए, let us see. House property. If your capital asset is a house property, then holding period will be, if holding period is more than 24 months, it is a long term holding period. If it is less than 24 months, then it is short term holding period. If your capital asset is mutual fund, then if you are holding mutual fund for more than 36 months, then it is a long term asset. If you are holding mutual fund for less than 36 months, then it is a short term asset. Equity mutual fund. If you have invested in some equity funds, then if you are holding equity mutual fund for more than 12 months, then it is long term asset. If you are holding mutual equity mutual fund for less than 12 months, then it is short term asset. Share. SST paid. SST means security transaction tax. Whenever you buy or sell a share, you have to pay SST, that is security transaction tax. Holding period more than 12 months, then it is a long term asset. If holding period or share is less than 12 months, then it is a short term asset. Share on which SST is not paid, same. Holding period is more than 12 months, long term asset. Holding period less than 12 months, short term asset. So we have divided capital asset in 5 categories: house property, debt mutual fund, equity mutual fund, shares. Part by part, everyone. Let's move ahead now. Resident and non-resident. Levy of income tax in India is dependent on the residential status of a taxpayer. Individuals who qualify as a resident in India must pay tax on their global income in India, that is, income earned in India and abroad. Whereas those who qualify as non-resident need to pay tax only on income earned in India. The residential status has to be determined separately for each financial year for which income and tax are counted. So if you are a resident in India in previous year, then no matter whether you are earning income in India or abroad, you have to pay tax in India for the income earned in India as well as for the income earned in abroad. Suppose in previous year you are a non-resident, then you have to pay tax only on income earned in India. If there is some income which is earned outside India, then you need not to pay tax on that income. Okay. Now, let us do some illustrations. Is it mandatory to file return of income? Yes or no? It is mandatory to file return of income for a company and firm. If you are a company or you are a firm, then it is mandatory for you to file return of income. However, for individual HUF, AOP, BOI, return of income is mandatory only if your income exceeds the basic exemption limit, that is 2,50,000. So, for company and firm, it is mandatory to file income tax return, no matter how much you are earning. If your company is going in losses or your firm is going in losses, then also you have to file income tax return, whether you are earning something or not. But for a company and a firm, filing of return of income is mandatory. However, for individual HUF, AOP, and BOI, return filing is not compulsory if your income does not exceed 2,50,000, that is basic exemption limit. But if your income exceeds basic exemption limit, that is 2,50,000, then individual HUF, AOP, and BOI are also required to file return of income. Got my point? So for company and firm, no matter how much they are earning, it is mandatory to file return of income. For individual HUF, AOP, BOI, it is mandatory to file return of income only if their income exceeds basic exemption limit of rupees 2,50,000. Can I file return of income even if my income is below taxable limit? Yes. You can file return of income voluntarily even if your income is less than basic exemption limit. Suppose in previous year I earned only rupees 50,000. That is below, that is under exemption limit. Now it is up to me whether I want to file return of income or not. So if my income is below taxable limit, then also I can file nil nil income tax return. What documents are to be enclosed along with the return of income? There is no need to enclose any document with the return of income. However, one should retain the document to produce before any competent authority as and when required in future. So it is not compulsory. It is not necessary. It is no. There is no need to enclose any document with the return of income. However, however, you should have the document with you if the government demands document from you in future. Should I disclose all my income in the return if it is exempt? Yes. Income from every source, including exempt income, must be disclosed. The same must be shown under the Schedule EI. But if you are earning income from any source, you have to disclose that income under income tax return. These are some illustrations which we are going to do at the end of the class. So until now we have discussed Income Tax Act. Now we are going to start a new topic, that is GST, Goods and Service Tax. Now we are going to start new topic, that is GST, Goods and Service Tax. I am sharing the PPT with you again. GST, Goods and Service Tax. What is goods and service tax? What is goods and service tax? बच्चों, GST means goods and service tax is an indirect tax that is levied if you are supplying any goods or you are giving any services. बच्चों, goods and service tax is an indirect tax that is applicable if you are supplying any goods, if you are selling any goods, or you are providing services. Goods and service tax is an indirect tax that has replaced many indirect taxes in India, such as excise duty, VAT, service tax, etc. Goods and service tax is an indirect tax that has replaced many other indirect taxes in India. Excise duty, VAT, service tax, etc. But before GST, there were many different tax, indirect taxes in India. Excise duty, VAT, service tax, etc. Now, all these taxes are removed, and in the place of these taxes, only one tax is there, that is GST, goods and service tax. Goods and service tax was passed in the parliament on 29th of March 2017 and came into effect on 1st July 2017. So बच्चों, GST was passed on 29th of March 2017 and came into effect on 1st July 2017. In other words, GST is levied on the supply of goods and services. In other words, GST is levied on the supply of goods and services. Goods and service tax law in India is a comprehensive, multi-stage, destination-based tax that is levied on every value addition. But GST is applicable on every value addition. GST is a single domestic indirect tax for the entire country, means one country, one tax. Now, sir, GST is applicable on value addition. How will you define it? For example, my company is manufacturing biscuits. First of all, I will purchase flour from the market. The flour, I have to pay GST on that. After that flour is turned into biscuit, the value is added. Now I have to pay GST on the value added. When the biscuit is packed in a packet, more value is added. Now I have to pay GST on the additional value. So GST is paid on every value addition. Got my point, everyone? Let's move ahead then. Before the GST could be introduced, the structure of indirect tax levied in India are as follows. Buying raw material. If you buy raw material for manufacturing, you have to pay VAT. If you if the manufacturer sell it to warehouse, then also VAT plus excise duty. If the wholesaler sell it to retailer, then also VAT. If the retailer sell it to final consumer, then also you have to pay VAT. Multi-stage. Under GST regime, the tax is levied at every point of sale. In case of intra-state sale, GST, central GST and state GST are charged. बच्चों, under GST regime, tax is levied at every point of sale. Under GST regime, tax is levied on every point of sale. In case of interstate sale, central GST and state GST are charged. Central GST and state GST are charged. All intra-state sales are chargeable to integrated GST. An item goes through multiple stage of hands along its supply chain, starting from manufacture until the final sale to the consumer. Let us consider the following stages. Purchase of raw material, production and warehousing of finished goods, selling to wholesaler, sell of the product to retailer, selling to the end consumer. So when you purchase the raw material, you have to pay GST. I told you when you start the production, then also you have to pay GST. When the finished product is sold to wholesaler, then also you have to pay GST. When wholesaler pay to retailer, then also GST. And selling it to the end customer, then retailer will also have to pay GST. Now, so you purchase flour and sugar that is converted into biscuit. Now value is added. You have to pay GST on the only the value that is added. That biscuit is now packed in a packet with label. The value is added, then also you have to pay GST. The biscuit then sold to wholesaler, the value is added, then also you have to pay GST on the value addition. A manufacturer who makes biscuit buy flour, sugar and other material. The value to the inputs increases. The value to the input increases. When the sugar and flour are mixed and baked into biscuit. A manufacturer make biscuit by flour and sugar and other material. The value of input increases when the sugar and flour are mixed and baked into biscuits. The manufacturer then sells these biscuits to the warehousing agent who packs large quantity of biscuits into carton and label it. The manufacturer then sells this biscuit to the warehousing agent who packs large quantities of biscuit in the cartons and labels it. This is another addition of value to the biscuits. After this, the warehousing agent sells it to the retailer. The retailer packages the biscuits in smaller quantities and invests in the marketing of the biscuit and thus increasing its value. GMT is levied on every value addition. That is the monetary value added at each stage to arrive the final sale to the end consumer. So बच्चों, after wholesaler, the reseller packs the biscuit in smaller quantity and sell it to the consumer. He add the profit. The GST will be added on only the value that is added. Destination based. Consider goods manufactured in Maharashtra and sold to the final customer in Karnataka. Since goods and service tax is levied at the point of consumption, the entire tax revenue will go to Karnataka, not the Maharashtra government. Suppose I am manufacturing a goods in Maharashtra and I sold the goods to the final customer in Karnataka. So, goods and service tax is a tax levied on point of consumption, where the goods will be consumed, where they are sold at Karnataka. So, the entire revenue will go to Karnataka government, not Maharashtra government. Got my point? So, GST is a destination based tax. I am sharing another PPT with you now. Journey of GST in India. चलिए बच्चों, let's have a look at the journey of GST in India. GST journey began in 2000 when a committee was set up to draft law. In 2000, a committee was set up to draft law. It took 17 years from then for the law to evolve. It took 17 years from that the law to evolve. In 2017, the GST bill was passed in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. On 1st of July, the GST law come into force. In 2017, the GST was passed in both houses of parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And in 2017, 1st of July, the GST law come into force. Advantages of GST. GST has mainly removed the cascading effect on the sale of goods and services. बच्चों cascading effect means tax on tax. In the previous tax system, we are paying taxes on the amount of tax we have paid. We are paying taxes on taxes. But in GST, this problem is solved. GST remove the cascading effect, that is tax on tax. Removal of cascading effect has impacted the cost of goods. Since GST regime eliminate the tax on tax, the cost of goods decreases. But if you have to pay more tax, if a manufacturer had to pay more tax, the cost of the price will increase. But GST has removed the cascading effect, that is tax on tax. Now automatically the price of it will decrease. So it will help the customer also. Also, GST is mainly technological driven. All activities like registration, return filing, application for refund, and response to notice need to be done online on the GST portal, which accelerate the process. So GST is completely technological driven. You can register GST, file return, application for refund, response to notice, all need to be done online on the GST portal. So most important advantage of GST is it has removed the cascading effect, that is tax on tax, and because of that the cost of goods are decreased. What are the components of GST? There are three taxes applicable under this system: CGFT, SGFT, IGFT. What is CGFT? It is a tax collected by central government on an intra-state sale. That is, transaction happening within Maharashtra or transaction happening within Rajasthan or etc. So if there is any transaction that happens within the state, then you have to pay central taxes collected by central government. SGST means state goods and service tax. It is collected by the state government on the intra-state sale. That is happening, transaction happening within Maharashtra or within Rajasthan or within Gujarat, etc. So if any transaction take place within the state only, then you have to pay SGST. So, bachcho, it means for any transaction which is paid within, which is done within the state, you have to pay both CGFT and SGST. For example, you must have gone to any restaurant for eating some food or anything. You must check the bill. In the bill, they are charging 2.5% SGST, 2.5% GST because they are selling the goods within the state only. So if goods are sold within the state, then tax collected by central government, CGFT, and state government, SGFT. IGST. It is a tax collected by central government for an inter-state sale, that is Maharashtra to Rajasthan or Rajasthan to Maharashtra, etc. So it is collected only by central government if there is interstate sale, that is from one state to another state. So components of GST: CGFT, FGFT, IGFT. CGFT and FGFT is applicable on inter-state sale, that is sale within the state, and IGFT is applicable on interstate sale, that is sale between state. Got my point, everyone? In the most cases, theft structure under the new regime will be as follows. Sale within the state. I told you CGFT, SGFT. Old regime. In old regime, you have to pay VAT and central excise. Revenue will be shared equally between the state government and central government. ठीक है sir. Sale to another state. IGST. In previously, you have to pay central sales tax and service tax. But now, if the sale is from one state to another, you have to pay IGST. This will only be one type of tax in case of interstate sale. The center will then share the IGST revenue based on the destination of goods. Illustration. Let us assume that a dealer in Gujarat had sold the goods to a dealer in Punjab worth rupees 50,000. The tax rate is 18% comprising of IGST. In such a case, the dealer has to charge IGST of 9,000. The revenue will go to central government. The same 9,000, that is 50,000 into 18%. 50,000 into 18%. The same dealer sell goods to the consumer in Gujarat worth rupees 50,000. The GST will be 12%. That is GST 6% to the SGST and GST 6% to the CGST. The dealer has to collect 6,000 in goods and service tax. 3,000 will go to central government and 3,000 will go to Gujarat government since the goods is within the state. So, in this example, I told you if the seller is selling the goods from one state to another, then he is paying IGST 18%, that is 9,000 to the central government. And if the same dealer sold the goods within one state only, then you have to pay 12% GST, that is 6,000. Out of the 6,000, half 3,000 will go to central government and half 3,000 will go to state government. Got my point? So CGFT, FGFT is applicable on intra-state sale and IGFT is applicable on interstate sale. It means if you are selling the goods within the state, then you have to pay CGFT and FGFT. If you are selling the goods from one state to another, then you have to pay IGFT. Got my point, everyone? Is there any problem now? Chalo. So in next class we are going to discuss tax law before GST. We are going to discuss tax law before GST. Now I am sharing MCQs with you. We are going to solve some MCQs. By solving MCQs, we will get a clarity on the topic and your complete topic will automatically get revised. That is the reason we always try to do MCQs. MCQs are very important to get a clarity on the topic. So please try to understand this very carefully. Income tax is a type of tax that is dash government charges on the income earned during a financial year by the individual and business. So what type of tax is income tax? Direct tax. And who charges it? Central government. Answer is B, central government. Employee utilizes this tax revenue for. Government utilizes this tax revenue for what? What government do with this tax revenue? Developing infrastructure, providing healthcare, education, all of the above. Answer is all of the above. Taxpayer are categorized as below. Individual, HUF, AOP, all of the above. Answer is all of the above. Type of income or head of income? Income from other sources, income from house property, income from capital gain, D, all of the above. Answer is all of the above. The old tax regime provide three slab rate for levy of income tax, which are 5%, 20%, 10%. B, 5%, 20%, 30%. C, 10%, 20%, 30%. D, none of the above. Answer is B, 5%, 20%, 30%. 5% is 2,50,000 to 5 lakh. 20% is 5 lakh to 10 lakh. And 30% is more than 10 lakh. Under old tax regime, what is tax rate of individual up to income of 2,50,000? 5%, 10%, nil or 30. If you are an individual and in previous year you have earned rupees 2,50,000, then what is the income tax rate? Nil. Under old tax regime, what is the tax rate for individual up to income 5 lakh? 5%, 10%, nil or 30? Answer is A, 5%. Under old tax regime, What is the rate of income tax up to income 5 lakh rupees under new tax regime? It's not old, this is new. Under new tax regime, what is the tax rate for individual up to income 5 lakh? That is same 5%. Because under new tax regime also income earned up to 2 lakh 50,000 is exempt. And income earned beyond 2 lakh 50,000 up to 5 lakh tax rate is 5%. So answer will be 5%. Do not get confused in exam. In both, under both old tax regime and new tax regime, if you are earning income up to 5 lakh, tax rate will be 5%. Then it is mandatory to file return of income if it is up to rupees 50 lakh. Company, HUF, AOP or BOI? Answer is company. Because for HUF, AOP and BOI, if income is under basic exemption limit, they are not required to file income tax return. But a company, no matter what a company is earning or going in losses, the company have to file return of income. No matter what a company is earning, a company have to file return of income. It is compulsory for. What documents are to be enclosed along with the return of income? Bank statement, bill, all document or no document. Documents to be enclosed with return of income. No document. कोई document. So everyone please note it down or take a photo and try to attempt these illustrations at home. Please take a photo and note it down. Everyone, please either take a photo or take a screenshot and try to attempt these illustrations at your home. Please, everyone, please try to take a photo or just take a screenshot. Nothing else. Everyone have to do these illustrations. Bachcho, trust me, if you will do the illustrations properly, you do not have to face any problem because the illustrations will clear your mind. Your whole topic will automatically get revised. That's why it is important to do MCQs. And I am giving you MCQs after each topic. Try to solve these. Take a screenshot, take a picture, and try to solve this at home. I'm not saying you have to do it correct, but at least try to solve it so that you can know where you are making the mistakes. I hope you all are trying the illustrations at home. If not, please start a practice of doing it because it is important. MCQs will also help you in exam. These are going to come in exam. So MCQs will also help you in exam as well as you get a clarity on the topic. Our main motive of study is to study logically to get the clarity on the topic, and this MCQ will help you out. This is last. This is last. So I hope everyone has taken a photo screenshot. So today we have discussed income tax and GST. GST is remaining, which we are going to complete in next class. And in next class, we are also going to start a new topic. We are going to finish the GST in the next class, and then we will take a new topic. So thank you all for joining. Please everyone take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye. See you in next class.